Episode 189, Small Farms and Why They Matter. This is the World Organic News for the week ending 14th of October 2019. John Moore reporting. Decarbonise the air, recarbonise the soil. Following on from last month's online conference I ran in conjunction with my co-host from Permaculture Plus, Rich Bowden, I've been struggling to find my mojo. The answers to our climate questions are available. They've been there for at least 30 years. And yet we have people arguing against the very notion of climate change. It can be depressing. I'm pleased to see people out on the streets, the Extinction Rebellion movement and so on. And yet I remember the massive anti-Iraqi war protests, millions on the streets, and still the troops were sent in. I see the usual responses from the usual suspects, to misquote a line from Casablanca. I do feel in my bones that the only real change we can affect starts at the grassroots level, and I produced an episode on systems change back in episode 180, link in the show notes. So I understand the effects of lots of little steps resulting in a massive paradigm shift almost when least expected. The 100 monkeys idea. For you young'uns out there, this was a big thing in the 80s and 90s, 1980s and 1990s. The story went like this. 2 colonies of monkeys in Japan, at opposite ends of a island and separated geographically, were fed raw potatoes. One monkey discovered that washing these raw potatoes in seawater made them more palatable. So he showed this to others, and slowly the number of monkeys washing their potatoes grew. Eventually 100 monkeys were practicing this. The next day, each monkey in the group was a potato washer, and every monkey in the second group, separated by geography, also began washing their potatoes as if it was the most natural thing in the world. The idea being that a new idea takes time to embed, but suddenly, after the 100th monkey, everything changes. The story is apocryphal, or even complete BS, but the theory makes sense. During my own long dark tea time of the soul of late, I've been struggling between the nothing is changing and we've just got to reach 100 monkeys to effect all the change we need. Then a link to World Organic News showed up on my Facebook page from Bryn Athen Bounty Farm Market. A big thank you and shout out to them. September the 30th is International Podcast Day every year, and the good folk at Bryn Athen Bounty Farm Market were good enough to mention World Organic News podcast as one of their favourite shows. As my regular listeners will know, I don't ask for ratings, reviews or any of that sort of thing. So when one pops up, I'm really appreciative. So once again, thank you. This mention, unexpected as it was, nudged me out of my downness and has renewed my faith in finding that 100th monkey. So to today's article. Why small farms and why they matter. Let's define small farms, and that depends on where you are. I'd mentioned I'd lived on small holdings all my life, all my adult life, during morning tea at the Irish dairy where I was learning to become a dairy hand last year. And one of the gardeners replied, 5,000 acres? To himself and many others in the Republic, all farms in Australia were huge by Irish standards. When I replied, no, between 2 and 50 odd acres, they seemed surprised that such small spaces were farmed in this wide brown land. So my understanding of a small farm may not be yours. I would include backyards in my definition, food production being the key to understanding what is a small farm. I also like to see animals in the system. Chooks, guinea pigs, rabbits are all suitable in a suburban space. And of course, once you get a bit bigger, sheep, goats, pigs, chooks, geese, llamas, alpacas, any of these things, or even a house cow or a goer. And as I've mentioned elsewhere, plants and animals co-evolved in response to each other and work better in union to keep each other healthy and to produce great food. So to our link, which has a UK setting, Why We Need Small Farms from resilience.org. Quote, small farms, once the beating heart of the British countryside, are disappearing. This is nothing new. They have been in decline for the last 80 years, but the pace of their disappearance is faster than ever. According to the Campaign to Protect Rural England report, New Model Farming, there's a link to that report in the show notes, a third of UK farms under 50 hectares has been lost between 2005 and 2015. In stark contrast, the number of farms above 100 hectares is on the rise. For some, big may still be better, but for our rural environments, economies and communities, this is grave news." End quote. To my way of thinking, the importance of small area farmers cannot be overstated. A living landscape is what they bring: community, diversity, biodiversity, and a tendency for more tree cover than a huge monocultural agribusiness. And a living landscape is a more carefully tended one. Imbalances in one affect so many other farmers. So an erosion which can spread so quickly up gullies, across boundary fences and so on, is nipped in the bud. On 10,000 acre properties, this can go unobserved for years, as can invasive weed species. On smaller farms, these things tend to be worked on more quickly, and then cultural norms tend towards reinforcing these effects. Smaller farms are also more agile and responsive to both market changes and environmental ones. I spoke back in episode 122, in Defence of Modern Yeomanry, of the way we could integrate smaller farms into the existing suburban structure. This plan is predicated upon turning golf courses into productive farmland, so it will not appeal to certain sections of the community. But golf clubs seem to be a dying thing anyway, so there may be some hope. And it is hope that will get us through the next 20 years in good shape. And hope seems like a really good note to finish on. Remember, decarbonise the air, recarbonise the soil. Thanks for listening. I'll be back next week.